So hello and welcome to the Redline Solutions webinar on mobilizing web-based business applications. I'd like to give a big thank you for everybody joining us this morning, what should be a really great session. And before we kick off, just a little housekeeping. Your mics are all muted. That will be the same throughout the webinar. There is a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. However, feel free to enter any questions in the box in the bottom right as they come up. We'll track all the questions and address them as time permits. We are recording today's session, which will be loaded onto the Redline website, and you will also receive a link with its location. So really pleased to have some great presenters here today. I would love to introduce first one of our great customers. Nitin Miranda is the SAP Project Lead at UCT, and he'll be talking about his experiences with the Redline and Ivanti Wavelink solutions. We have Matt Eschbach from, he's the Territory Manager at Ivanti Wavelink, and we also have Tim Muller, the Sales Engineer at Ivanti Wavelink. So, and there's me at the top left looking very pre-COVID, which is always good. One day I might look like that again. And here's the agenda for today. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of an overview on Redline Solutions. Then I'll pass over to Nitin, and then the Ivanti Wavelink team will take you through their solution and how their product can really benefit your organization. And then we'll close with some Q&A. So a little bit about Redline Solutions. We've been providing customers with robust, cost-effective solutions for over 23 years. We're a leading system integrator specializing in all things barcode, UDI, RFID, wireless networking and labeling systems. And we offer consultative implementation and support services with specialities in warehouse management, manufacturing, logistics, and fresh produce supply chain. We have our own in-house software development team that work on our cloud and on-premise based WMS and traceability solutions, which are installed in customers across North America. Redline's goal is to build exceptional solutions through technology, knowledge, partnership and service. And here are some of the world-class partners which we work on a daily basis, and we are very pleased to be a platinum partner of Ivanti Wavelink, who are here with us today. So enough about Redline. As I mentioned, very pleased to have Nitin Miranda with us today to talk about some of his operational challenges and how they were resolved. So Nitin, over to you.
Right. Thank you for the introduction, Adrian. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, can do.
So I appreciate this opportunity to talk to all of you. And before I actually get on to the Ivanti stuff and the Redline stuff, I'll talk to you a little bit about who UCT is. So UCT as a company was launched from Mitsubishi back in 1991. The intention was to bring the ultra-clean manufacturing technologies into the semiconductor industry out here in the Silicon Valley. After a management buyout in 2004, this company went public back then. Here you have a brief snapshot of who we are. So we are basically an internationally recognized supplier of critical subsystems, ultra-high purity cleaning and analytical services, primarily in the semiconductor industry. So we give customers an integrated outsourced solution for major sub-assemblies, which include complex modules ranging from liquid and gas delivery systems to turnkey system integrations. So UCT now operates under two business units. We call them SPS and SSB, which is our semiconductor products and solutions and our semiconductor services business. So we are an expert at managing the requirements of low volume, high precision, highly configured, complex systems integration. we meet customers' needs with proven results in global supply chain management, with new product integration, and we deliver effective cost reduction strategies with proven quality and delivery performance. Now, as a company, we are headquartered in Hayward, California. You can see these two stars, the blue and the orange. The blue ones talk about our locations where we do manufacturing for our SPS unit, and the orange ones are where we do our cleaning and analysis business as part of the SSB units. So the SPS unit has manufacturing facilities in Hayward, back in California, in Austin in Texas, Chandler in Arizona. And then globally, we have manufacturing in Singapore, Shanghai in China, the Czech Republic, and Cebu in the Philippines. So that's the SPS part of it. As a company, we have grown through a number of acquisitions. So this basically has expanded our capabilities. It's given us vertical integration and broadened our geographic footprint, as you can see on the slide. So this has added part production to our portfolio of offerings, and also our warehousing requirements. They basically span from small raw materials to large and complex assemblies. Now, coming to the fun part about Redline Solutions and Ivanti Wavelink. So as a company, UCT had been using a legacy ERP system with the Intermec CK75 mobile devices using the VD5250 terminal emulation software. So these legacy systems were in need of an upgrade to next-gen ERP systems for much more efficient operational processes, right? As part of that exercise, about 4 years ago, we selected SAP as our ERP software. This move to SAP basically gave us an opportunity to review new mobile devices from Zebra. And these were then chosen due to form and functionality over the existing Intermec devices that we had. We picked Redline as our partner of choice since they were already an existing trusted supplier to UCT and a pretty good advisor at that. So in this conversion from our legacy system to SAP, within SAP, we used what is known as the ITS Mobile, or the Internet Transaction Server, which is SAP's way of speaking back and forth with the Zebra mobile devices. It lets us run applications based on what SAP calls DINPro programming module. Now, whilst we were using this, we had some quirks and challenges, especially around how we use them on these new devices, because we're using multiple devices, screen sizes, resolutions, and so on. So these needed to be addressed so that we could get a consistent user experience, avoid system challenges, and enable much easier staff training as we moved across different warehouses that we have. Given these challenges, Redline then recommended their partner Ivanti's Velocity Web product to us. Redline's team walked us through how the system operation would be, the setup, the configuration, the benefits, focusing how screen rendering and scripting options could address these challenges that we had. So we've been using the Velocity Web for over 4 years now, and this product has given us an excellent tool, especially as this company grows through acquisitions and we roll out these solutions through our various sites. So we are quickly able to get our warehouse associates productive and get all of our warehouse processes up and running using the Zebra devices along with the Ivanti's Velocity Web. So in a nutshell, between Redline and Ivanti, they gave us excellent resources and very helpful personnel to address all our needs, sort out all of our teething troubles as we installed all of these new devices. Bottom line, they've been very, very easy to work with, and we are very happy with the relationship that we have with Redline. Following this, we are also evaluating additional Ivanti products such as Avalanche as we move forward in our SAP journey. That's it from my side.
Excellent. Well, thank you ever so much, Nitin. Nicely done. So now we have the Ivanti Wavelink team, and I will pass you to Matt Eschbach. Let me just change the presenter. It should be yours, Matt.
Perfect. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. Hello, folks. My name is Matt Eschbach. I'm the territory manager for Ivanti Wavelink. I've got responsibility for the West. And with me, I've got my sales engineer. His name is Tim Muller. He is the expert when it comes to our products. So I very much appreciate everybody's time today. I also appreciate the folks from Redline for organizing and driving this this webinar today, and of course Nitin from UltraClean for speaking favorably of our solution. I love to hear stories like that. So again, I appreciate everybody's time today. So I'll quickly step through some slides here. So we've worked with Redline Solutions for decades, right? And together we've seen the rugged mobility space evolve from really old devices like that Telson device running MS-DOS there on the far left, through the Windows era. So that included Windows CE, Windows Mobile, Windows Embedded Handheld, and now, of course, to the current Android-based devices that you see on the screen as well. And so generally speaking, right, so customers access their WMS or ERP systems through mobile devices in really one or two ways. I should say one of two ways. So the first is terminal emulation. So that's also known as TE or Telnet, or in some cases green screen. And that's really where, Wavelink established our roots, is in that space. And then the second area is web. And so for the purpose of today's webinar, we'll be talking about, the browser that's used for these web-based scenarios. So it always surprises me when a business will take their mission-critical application, like managing inventory in a warehouse, for example, and run them on a consumer-based browser like Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge. So these are obviously great browsers. We all use them on a daily basis for home use. But to be clear, right, these are not designed for enterprise applications. So why a purpose-built industrial browser for your mobile web-based application is kind of the focus of today, and that's what we'll discuss for the next few minutes. So first, Ivanti Wavelink is an enterprise software company, and we are focused on the supply chain, and we always have been. We've got more than 16 million active clients in use today with 80% market share. And so why does dealing with an enterprise software company matter? Well, first, if you do encounter challenges, and of course we hope that that doesn't happen, but we've got a global support team to help you get your enterprise application back up and running. Highly doubt that 1-800-Google or 1-800-Microsoft will basically demonstrate the ability to get you back online. But another example, and by the way, those were false numbers. I have no idea if they actually work. Another example of why an enterprise software company makes sense. So with Ivanti, you update our applications on your own terms, right? So if a solution or a configuration works, many of our users decide to lock it down, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Using a free browser, well, Google or Microsoft, can send updates as they see fit. And believe me, that can compromise current functionality as well as put your business operations at risk. So these are just a couple of reasons why 24 of the top 25 supply chains use Ivanti Wavelink. This is just a snapshot of some of the world's leading brands. I need to add UltraClean on top of this slide. That's something that I need to do following our presentation today. But you can see that the customers first, they span different verticals. You can see retail, transportation, manufacturing, also includes global coverage. And because I manage the West, right, you can see that this is a highly West-centric slide. So Amazon, Costco, Ross, Worldpac, Albertsons, Petco, you get the idea. But the bottom line is, right, some of the biggest names across multiple industries, are our customers. So Wavelink is very well known for our TE-based solution, but we've been in the industrial browser space for a long time as well. So for legacy Windows-based devices, we had the Wavelink industrial browser, we had Velocity CE, and then we acquired Nartec. And so essentially what we did was we took the top features from these best-of-breed browsers and migrated them to our new product, for Android, which is called Velocity Web. So let's take a quick look at the architecture of the Velocity Web client. You can see that it sits right on the device itself. It does not touch your host systems. What that means to you is that you don't have to go through the time, the expense, or the risk of disrupting your WMS or ERP solution, or any other business critical application. Again, no modification to the host. That again is an extremely good thing for IT. Next, and we'll just start to pound through some of these benefits of Velocity Web. So Velocity Web has got custom keyboards. So as I point out in the slide, the Android system keyboard is designed for consumers, right? It's got emojis. It is not designed for supply chain workers. So a perfect example here is the Android system keyboard does not include function keys. And what is commonly used in enterprise applications like SAP? You got it, it's the function keys. So the additional function keys will instantly drive the efficiency and productivity of your warehouse workers. We also add contextual keyboards. So just a quick example of this, if you're in a numeric field, what keyboard pops up? It's the numeric keyboard, right? And so this is another way to reduce the number of keystrokes and drive improved accuracy. And if I guess you could solve basically the function key problem, with a third-party keyboard offering, but that's yet another application you have to buy. That's yet another application you have to manage. But we've got a keyboard creation tool that's included as part of Velocity Web, and so you can see that it's used via the console, and it does not require development experience in order to put together a custom keyboard for your operation. So that's something that a lot of our users find as really a top feature. Another Velocity Web benefit is scripting capabilities. Scripting capabilities do not exist in one of the free browsers that we talked about. And so you can see in this example here on the slide that you can essentially take 4 screens, which include multiple keystrokes, multiple processes, and cut that down to a single button press. This doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is. So take that improved productivity for a single process, multiply it by the number of processes that a user will typically go through in an hour or a day. Then you multiply that by the number of users. When you start to look at 2,500 users, 10,000 users, my gosh, those numbers add up. And so you get the idea. Even the smallest improvements can result in massive, massive productivity gains, which will drive super fast ROI. Next is a consistent web experience. So most enterprises have a variety of devices in their fleet. So regardless of the device manufacturer, regardless of the model, regardless of the screen size or orientation, being landscape or portrait, your enterprise application screens will be delivered the exact same way. As an example, your enterprise could be running an MC33 and a WT6000, a Honeywell device, a Panasonic tablet. Velocity Web will provide a common experience across those. So here in Seattle, we've got a very, very large e-commerce customer that runs Velocity Web on 145,000 devices across their fulfillment centers globally. They chose Velocity Web for this reason. It doesn't matter which device, Velocity Web just works. So in this case, right? A picture is worth 1,000 words, or something less, but you get the idea. So enterprise applications do not render well in mobile browsers, especially SAP. And this is an example of an SAP screen here, right? So to the left here, you can see how a legacy browser would basically, show these screens. You can see it's basically a postage stamp relative to the overall size of the screen. We've optimized SAP, as Nitin was explaining, for Velocity Web. So this includes full screen rendering. You get to fully leverage the large screen size of your new Android-based device, and that's important. Another couple of examples here. So Velocity Web is, again, optimized for supply chain users, driving productivity in the warehouse. You can see that other browsers, right, the screens are, illegible. So if you look in the upper left in both of these examples, you can see that you can't even read it, and they're not usable. Velocity Web, of course, updates and fixes these issues. So we support, and so as we look at WMSs, right, there's a lot of WMS out there. We support and have scripts written for 25 or more of the WMS ERP-based web applications out there. So we've been doing this for a long time. We've got a lot of customers deployed, and as a result, we've developed a library of scripts that streamline and optimize, these leading processes. And again, that drives improved usability and productivity for mobile workers. Next is scanner controls, right? So Velocity Web gives, and Velocity TE, our terminal emulation client, they both give you device-specific clients, right, that provide direct integration with the scanner. So Zebra, Honeywell, every other device manufacturer out there, does a fantastic job of optimizing these scanners, and we give you access to that same optimization. So you've got access to a variety of scanning parameters and settings. You can define how the data is decoded and how it's parsed out or otherwise handled, right? And so like with the keyboards, there's no data wedge required here, which means one less application to buy, one less application to manage, all through Velocity Web. And here, the Velocity platform acts as the foundation for our voice enablement solution, right, which is called Speakeasy. And if you're interested in a modern voice solution, right, voice has been around the warehouse for a decade. Some of those solutions are getting very, very long in the tooth. We've got what we call a Voice 2.0 solution, right? It basically takes and re-engineers how voice works in the warehouse. We, along with Redline, would love to have a conversation with you about voice in the warehouse. And again, Velocity Web or Velocity TE acts as the foundation, for this voice enablement platform. So I'll close with this. If you're still running legacy Windows-based devices, together with Redline, Ivanti Wavelink, we're happy to help migrate you, whether it's TE or web, to your new Android-based devices. We can get you up and running in minutes, minimizing any downtime, reducing training costs, and making sure that you guys are running the latest and greatest devices from the leading manufacturers. So let us know, because we are here to help out. And with that, those are my slides.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And we move into Q&A. So thanks, Matt, for that. That was great. So we've got some questions. Let me just open them up here. I'll read them through. So if you have any questions you haven't already posted in either the questions session at the bottom right-hand corner or the chat, please feel free to jump in. So first one, how do you keep users from navigating to other web pages or apps?
So this is Tim Muller. I haven't talked yet, but as Matt said, I am his sales engineer. I have technical education on all our products, and I'd be happy to answer. So Velocity, as Matt said, it is an industrial class browser, and as part of that, lockdown URLs is huge. So when you are using Velocity, you create a profile that is tied to a specific URL of your web application. And once that profile is loaded onto the device, users cannot navigate outside of that URL. So there's no way for them to, type YouTube or Google. There's no access to the URL like you would see in a traditional, just browser that you're used to using, like Chrome or Internet or Edge or anything along those lines. For us, it's completely locked down. Now, of course, they can continue to navigate within your web app. If there's links, they can, use that as necessary, but they can't access any other URLs.
Okay, thanks.
And then, yeah, for sure.
Well, second question then, can we run multiple web sessions? I guess, Tim, you can jump in.
Yeah, definitely. So that is another advantage of Velocity. You can run up to 4 concurrent sessions. So as Matt alluded to, Velocity is both a Telnet client and an industrial browser. So, you could run 4 web sessions, or you could run 4 Telnet sessions, or a mix of in between. That's really nice for, in a warehouse, you might have your picking process tied to a web application, and then you might have a receiving or something, another process tied to a Telnet application. You can actually have both sessions running concurrently. And on top of that, we can actually code into the client specific key that allows users to switch back and forth between the 2 sessions on the fly. So if you move the device from one area to another or need to change to a different application, you can do that very quickly. So that's a huge advantage of using Velocity over, some other products.
Okay. Got another question here. How do you combine the multiple screens using Velocity?
So I guess I'm a little bit confused on this question as far as like what.
Yeah, I'm guessing there was a slide that Matt showed, and it was bringing. So instead of having to press a lot of different screens, a lot of different functions, that you combine that into one.
Yep. So that's done through a scripting process, and what we're doing there is we're actually sending the key press or the command back to the host application that would be needed to advance through the screen. I think the simplest way to think of it is like, let's say you log into an application and you have to navigate through a couple different menus. You have to choose, maybe a specific warehouse, and then you have to choose a specific process, and then you're into your actual, picking operation or something along those lines. What we can do is, if the users are doing those same steps every time, we just script those commands or those key presses automatically. So that Velocity just sends those back to the host application, and we advance through those 3 or 4 screens so they can be right in their working process right away. And to Matt's point, it might not seem like a lot, but it can be a hassle for a user. Every day they're doing the same operation, to skip a few steps to make it a little bit easier. So I think that covers it.
Okay, thank you. So do you manage Velocity web settings from the device's client?
So that's a great question, and it's kind of a yes and no. There are some simple settings that you can change on a device, but for the most part, we have a really cool tool called the Velocity Console, and the console is the configuration tool that is run on a Windows PC, and it's where you can make all types of changes to your Velocity profile, whether it's your host settings, security settings if you have SSL or SSH security, the custom keyboards that Matt showed with our keyboard configuration tool. Those are all within the Velocity Console. And it's nice for a few reasons. You can make all those changes, and then you deploy it into one profile that then goes down to each of your devices. So it's really easy to keep that golden image, if you will. It's just one profile, then you deploy it to all your devices. You don't have to touch each device to make all the changes and all the settings that are critical for your operations. And that console is super user-friendly. Like Matt said, you do not have to be a web developer or a programmer. It's a lot of just turning settings on and off. So it's a great tool.
Okay. So I guess one that's pertinent to this, does Velocity Web automatically adjust to a device's screen size?
Yeah, the answer there is yes. So we've designed Velocity Web with some tools that will automatically allow it to render to different sizes. Whether it's a portrait, on an RF gun or a handheld versus maybe more of a landscape on a vehicle mount or a tablet, will automatically render to those sizes. As Matt alluded to, one of our largest customers, that was the reason they decided to go with Velocity Web, is because they're using different devices, different screen sizes, and even different manufacturers. And they saw consistent, really nice rendering across the scope of those devices. And the one thing I will add is if, there's ever a rare case where, hey, for some reason it just doesn't look great, maybe it's not taking up the screen, or, the menu's compressed into a certain area of the screen, Velocity has some really cool tools where we can actually insert CSS or HTML code at the device level and improve that rendering. And that's really nice because you don't have to go, change your backend web host. We're actually inserting that code and making those web pages appear in a more, a better user interface on the device without having to change that backend host, which is really nice. So at the end of the day, whether it does it automatically or whether we have to put it and help you out, put in a little work, we'll get it rendering properly.
Excellent. So there was actually a question for Nitin, and I see you answered it in here, but I was going to ask you it so for the benefit of everybody on the call. What did Velocity Web do to improve ITS mobile?
Oh, one of the slides was what we showed on the screen rendering, right? That was the biggest gain. Screen sizes in the other browsers were extremely small. The other benefit was, again, on another slide, the function keys. So, screen resolution, use of the custom keyboard function keys, these were the two biggest gains.
So if you're using one type of Zebra device, or you've got multiple devices all over, because you've got a very large organization spread across the world, I'm guessing, your application will be in lots of different devices, and that.
Yes, we're actually using 3 different devices, 3 different Zebra devices at this point, yeah. And
okay. And you're getting a consistent look and feel, so it's easier to train?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, good, thank you. So we've got another one here. Can you turn the function keys into buttons like back?
Yeah, so I'll jump in and take that, and the answer is yes. So we have the ability within Velocity, and again, we'd be using that Velocity console tool that I talked about earlier, and our scripting engine. We can do all types of macros where, a certain key press, if it's a hardware key on a scanner or a device that has hardware keys, that's normally a function key. We can macro that to send a back command to our web browser, so that when they press that function key, it tells the web browser to go back. And we're not just limited to that. If there's any keys that we need to swap or change, or anything that will help your users or operators be more efficient, we can definitely make those changes. And one thing I'd like to add to that last question about SAP, and I think Matt covered it at some point, but Velocity Web, we are the preferred industrial browser for SAP. So on top of, the rendering, we have a whole already built kind of plethora of scripting and other tools that make using SAP ITS Mobile within Velocity Web a really great experience. Like, we have some scripts that help, the keyboard pop up on certain fields, or, focus on certain aspects or elements of your SAP web pages. I won't go into a ton of detail, but we do have some really cool tricks for SAP ITS Mobile.
Excellent. And is Velocity Web well suited for being managed by an MDM tool?
Yes, definitely. And it goes back to what I talked about earlier, how when you're building out those profiles through the Velocity console, you now have that one profile that will, restrict the URL, and you pass that down to the devices. That's well suited to an MDM tool. So, it's very easy to, hand down the Velocity software, and then the one profile that connects to your web app, or multiple profiles if you're going to run different sessions and connect to different hosts. It's easy to pass those down through an MDM tool. I'll take a second just to highlight, we do, as Ivanti Wavelink, we have an MDM tool called Avalanche. It's fully integrated into Velocity, and it's very easy to deploy both the Velocity client and those profiles down to devices.
Excellent, thank you. And again, there was another question for Nitin, which you answered here, but I'll ask you on the session. Main reason to move from Honeywell to Zebra for your organization?
Yeah, so the devices that we had, the CK72, 75, they were dated devices, right? So as we embarked on our ERP journey, we brought in all the new latest devices available in the market. had our folks in the warehouse actually evaluate them. So Redline actually gave us a bunch of demo units which we could use in our test environments, and based on their feedback, we finally shortlisted a few devices from Zebra in the different areas of our warehouse. So that's the reason we switched from our, again, our project was not a big bang, so we did a phased rollout. So we could utilize our older devices in the other locations which were still on the legacy ERP. So we didn't really end up throwing the Intermec devices. We started using them in our warehouses which were running the legacy environment, and got Zebra devices onto the SAP ones.
Excellent, thank you. So I think that's about most of the questions we've got here, and we've gone a little bit over time. So I will say thank you again for everybody for joining us today. Thank you very, very much, Nitin, Matt, Tim, for your great presentations, discussions. That was awesome. If you have any questions about anything that we went through, please do not hesitate to contact us. This session was recorded, so we will send you a link of the video shortly, and we will see you again soon on another Redline webinar. Thank you ever so much, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.